The truck stopped at the red light, but the refrigerator tied to its roof kept moving and sent me into another world. I opened my eyes on the floor of a magic academy where 100 armored ants refused to cross my chalk line while every student stepped over it and laughed. One student stood on my hand. He had polished boots, silver hair, and the relaxed smile of someone who had never checked the price of bread. "Move, Elvar," he said. "You are blocking the exam." The name reached me together with a flood of memories that were not mine. Elvar, 17 years old, first-year barrier student, scholarship holder, current balance, 3 copper coins, tuition debt, 20 gold. Chances of paying it, similar to the chances of the ants opening a bakery. The silver-haired student was Odrin, first place in our year, son of the merchant who paid for half the training hall. He lifted his boot from my fingers and walked across the white line. The ants did not follow him. They were each as long as my thumb. Their shells looked like black iron, and their jaws clicked hard enough to cut leather. They crowded against the chalk in a moving wall, but not one leg touched the other side. "There," Audrin announced. "Even an insect has enough sense to be embarrassed for him." 300 students laughed. I sat up and looked at the arena. The line formed a rough circle around me. Outside it, the ants moved in a perfect ring. Inside it, I had a broken piece of chalk and no idea why I was still alive. Then I saw the examination board. The assigned target was written beside my name. 100 iron ants. The required duration was 3 minutes. A brass clock above the arena showed 3 minutes and 12 seconds. I had passed. "Instructor Kelrick?" A clear voice called from the front row. "The target has been contained for longer than the required time." The laughter weakened. The girl who had spoken wore the black coat of the discipline committee. Her dark hair was tied behind her neck. A silver badge rested over her heart, and a small timing crystal glowed in her palm. The memories gave me her name, Ciela, head of the Student Discipline Committee, second place in the academy, famous for returning library books early and people to prison on time. Instructor Kelrick walked into the arena. He was a broad man with a neat brown beard. His robe carried 6 gold barrier pins. He looked at the ants, then at Audrin, then at the balcony where Audrin's father sat beside the academy sponsors. "The purpose of a barrier is to stop an enemy," Kelrick said, "not garden pests." "The examination sheet names iron ants as his target," Ciela replied. "A real enemy can think." Kelrick pointed at me. "Odran, cross the line again." Odran stepped over the chalk and bowed. The students laughed again. Kelrick took the examination sheet from the board. With one stroke of red ink, he changed the target from iron ants to any hostile creature. He did it in front of everyone. "Barrier failed," he said. "F rank." The red letter appeared above my name on the ranking crystal. My position fell from 981 to 1,204. Last place. A second line of red light appeared beneath it. Scholarship review in 7 days. The body I had inherited reacted before my mind did. My stomach tightened. Elvar had spent 4 years earning that scholarship. Without it, he would lose his room, his meals, and his place at the academy. 20 gold equaled 2,000 silver. I stood and brushed chalk dust from my knees. "May I see the change sheet?" I asked. Kelrick blinked. He had expected shouting. Odrin looked disappointed too. A man who brought a drum to a funeral wanted someone to cry. "You may see it from outside the academy next week," Kelrick said. More laughter followed. I memorized the red stroke, the time, the witnesses, and the position of every recording crystal. Complaining without proof was noise. Proof was a weapon that waited. "Thank you," I said. That stopped the laughter for half a breath. Odrin leaned close as the attendants swept the ants into a steel box. "You should quit before the review," he whispered. "If you remain, my father has to fund one more scholarship. I need that money for the regional tournament. Do not make this difficult." There was the motive. He was not defending the academy. He was defending a larger allowance. "How much larger?" I asked. His eyebrows rose. "What?" "Your allowance. I want to know my market value." Several nearby students laughed, but this time they laughed at him. Odrin's smile tightened. 20 gold, he said. "More than you will see in your life." He walked to the arena for his test. Kelrick assigned him a stone wolf with 200 units of mana. Odran raised a blue wall that cost 400 units. The wolf struck once. A crack crossed the barrier from top to bottom. Kelrick awarded him an A. Ciela lowered her timing crystal and looked directly at me. For the first time since the refrigerator hit me, one person saw a human being instead of a failed spell. I left the arena with 3 copper coins, a piece of chalk, and 7 days to earn 20 gold. It was not a strong position. It was still better than being under the refrigerator. The academy dormitory had 6 floors, thin walls, and a kitchen that smelled of onions even when nobody cooked. My room was under the roof. It contained 1 narrow bed, 2 shirts, 4 books, and a small envelope marked tuition. The envelope was empty. I ate 1 hard roll and drank water. Then I examined the memories in my head. Magic in this world followed one simple law. A barrier resisted force with mana. If a fire spell contained 200 units, a barrier needed at least 201 to stop it. Every teacher, soldier, and monster knew that rule. Elvar's chalk line used less than 1 unit. It had still stopped 100 iron ants for 3 minutes. At midnight, a voice spoke behind my eyes. The lowest public rank has been confirmed. Hidden class selection is available. I sat on the bed. No shining window appeared. No floating list covered the wall. The voice simply named 3 choices. Master of Boundaries. Initial combat rank. A. Creates walls that grow stronger with mana. That sounded useful and completely ordinary. Guardian of Worlds. Initial combat rank. S. Repairs existing gates and seals. Requires royal authority for full growth. That sounded powerful and expensive. I owned 3 copper coins. Royal authority probably cost more. Divider of Concepts. Initial combat rank. F. Direct attack power. 0. Starting tool. 1 piece of common chalk. Effect. A completed line may forbid one named thing from crossing. I looked at the chalk in my hand. The first 2 classes built stronger walls. The third decided what a wall meant. I choose Divider of Concepts. The voice paused. Warning. The Academy Appraisal Crystal will display Chalk Divider, F rank. That changes nothing. Warning, 1 line may carry only 1 prohibition. A broken line carries none. Cost increases with length and conceptual weight. An inaccurate command may affect the user. Accepted. The chalk became warm. Current mana capacity, 100. Physical target cost, 10 units per meter. Energy target cost, 20 units per meter. Abstract target cost cannot yet be calculated. That was my entire advantage. 1 line, 1 rule. It broke the oldest law of barrier magic because it did not resist anything. A river did not need stronger water than a boat to keep the boat on one side of its bank. The bank only needed to exist. I knelt and drew a line 1 meter long across the floor. Dust cannot cross. I blew at a pinch of chalk dust. The white cloud moved forward, reached the line, and dropped straight down. 20 grains formed a tiny ridge. The voice spoke again. Mana spent 10, remaining mana 90. The door opened. Scylla stood in the hall with 1 hand raised to knock. She looked at me, the floor, and the small pile of dust. Most students hide forbidden rituals, she said. You appear to be threatening dirt. The dirt lost. Her mouth moved slightly. It was not quite a smile, but it had applied for the position. She held out a folded appeal form. The recording crystals captured Kelric changing your target. I filed a copy with the Discipline Archive. It will delay your expulsion hearing, but it will not change your rank. The faculty protects its instructors. How strong is your weakest fire spell? Scylla stared at me. That is a strange way to say thank you. I need a witness, and you already carry a timing crystal. She entered and closed the door. Her eyes settled on the chalk. My weakest firebolt contains 200 units of mana. Your recorded capacity is 100. Good. Aim at the empty cup. I placed a clay cup near the wall and drew a fresh line 1 meter in front of it. I pressed the chalk down until the mark was solid and unbroken. Fire cannot cross. 20 units of mana left my body. It felt like cold water running out through my fingers. Scylla lifted 1 hand. A red spark became a narrow bird of flame. It crossed the room with a sharp hiss. The spell reached the chalk and stopped. It did not strike a wall. It did not explode. The flame spread sideways along the white mark, searching for an end. The line reached from one wall to the other. The fire found no path. 3 seconds later, the spell collapsed into red sparks. The clay cup remained cold. Scylla's timing crystal slipped half an inch in her fingers. That bolt held 206 units, she said. My line cost 20. That is impossible. It was also cheaper. She crouched beside the mark. She did not touch it. Can it stop steel? For 10 units per meter. Poison. I do not know. Mana. More expensive. A person? I remembered Odrin stepping across my first line. Only if I named the correct part of the person. Saela looked at me again. This time her expression had changed. At the arena, she had seen an unfair score. In my room, she saw the reason someone might want that score buried. Do not show Kelric yet, she said. A bell began screaming downstairs. Smoke rolled beneath my door. Saela opened it. Orange light pulsed in the stairwell. Someone shouted that the kitchen oil had caught fire. Another voice shouted for water. A third shouted that water made an oil fire worse, which was useful information delivered much too late. We ran down 5 floors. The kitchen door had become a square of flame. Burning oil spread across the floor. 40 students crowded on the stairs in sleeping clothes. 2 dorm workers dragged buckets from the washroom. Every bucket that hit the oil threw fire higher. Odrin stood in the hall wearing a red silk robe. A blue barrier shook in front of him. Flames struck it from the kitchen side, and cracks ran over its surface. "Stay back!" he shouted. "My barrier has 400 units." It broke before he finished the sentence. The blast rolled into the hall. I had 70 units of mana left. The stairwell was 3 meters wide. I dropped to one knee and drew from wall to wall. The common chalk snapped halfway. I used the broken half and joined the mark carefully. The fire crossed the kitchen door. Fire cannot cross! 60 units vanished from my body. The blast reached the line. It stopped close enough to warm my face. Orange fire climbed toward the ceiling and spread along the mark. It pressed forward with enough force to bend the hanging lamps. The chalk did not glow. It did not thicken. It remained a cheap white line that a wet cloth could erase. The flames could not cross it. Silence moved through the stairwell, one person at a time. The first row stopped shouting. The second row lowered their buckets. The students on the landing stood on their toes. Someone whispered my name. Odrin pushed through the crowd. Soot covered one side of his silk robe. "A trick," he said. "The fire is already weakening." Saela raised her timing crystal. "The temperature behind the line is still rising." Then his chalk is hiding a barrier stone. Odrin formed a fire lance over his palm. It grew until the hall turned red. His face was tight now. If my line was real, his A-rank barrier had failed where an F-rank spell had succeeded. 300 students had laughed at me. 40 of them were about to choose a new target. "Do not cast that in a dormitory," Saela ordered. Odrin cast it. The lance contained 300 units of mana. It struck the white line, flattened like a hot cake against glass, and spread sideways. The point curled around. The shaft folded into it. A breath later, the whole spell collapsed into a thick cloud of black smoke. The smoke crossed the line. It covered Odrin from hair to boots. He stood in the hall with a clean white face where his protective charm had covered his skin and a black body below it. He looked like a spoon left in a furnace. One student laughed, then all 40 joined him. People leaned over the railings above us. Doors opened. Recording crystals appeared in half a dozen hands. Odrin tried to wipe his robe, which only moved the soot into new and more creative shapes. "The spell was unstable," he said. "It was your spell," Saela replied. That made the laughter twice as loud. The city fire guard arrived 6 minutes later. They smothered the kitchen with sand and inspected the hall. Their captain measured the line, checked Saela's recording, and made me repeat the effect with a candle flame before 12 witnesses. The candle could not cross. By sunrise, the Academy notice board carried a new emergency merit report. Elvar had prevented a dormitory fire from reaching 47 students. Reward, 30 silver. Mana capacity increased from 100 to 120. Academy position increased from 1,204 to 803. The numbers were read aloud by the ranking crystal. Nearly 200 students had gathered to hear them. Nobody laughed when it said F rank. They waited for my new class to appear. The crystal flashed. Chalk divider, F rank. The crowd went quiet. Then a boy near the back shouted, "The chalk beat a 300-unit fire lance. What does the F stand for?" Someone answered, "Fireproof." Odrin walked away while the courtyard laughed behind him. I spent 10 silver on 20 sticks of common chalk. I placed 10 silver in the empty tuition envelope. I used 2 silver to buy onions, butter, cheese, and fresh bread from the morning market. 18 silver remained. Saela joined me in the damaged dorm kitchen after the guard declared it safe. We cooked the onions slowly in butter until they turned soft and sweet. I added water, salt, and the last dried herbs from my room. We toasted the bread over the surviving stove and covered it with melted cheese. The soup was simple. It was also hot, rich, and the first meal I had eaten in this world that did not fight back. Sayla broke the toasted cheese with her spoon. "You could have let Odrin's barrier fail," she said. "The students laughing at you were behind him. Fire does not check who laughed before it burns them." She watched me for a moment. "That is why I filed the appeal." The system voice returned before I could answer. "Unregistered boundary detected beneath the academy." My spoon stopped. Boundary length, 12,000 meters. Estimated age, 900 years. Structural damage, 137 breaks. The floor trembled. Every bowl in the kitchen rang at once. A thin red crack opened between the stones under my chair. Heat breathed through it, carrying the smell of iron and burned rain. Then something on the other side scratched one long line beneath my feet. 7 days later, I walked into the academy tournament with 5 pieces of chalk, 120 units of mana, and exactly 18 silver to my name. The first prize was 30 gold. My tuition debt was due before sunset. The academy had placed my match at the end of the morning schedule. That gave 4,000 students enough time to fill the arena and 80,000 viewers enough time to connect through the city crystals. It also gave the rumor board 7 days to name me the Ant King, the Chalk Rat, and the White Line. I preferred the last one. Rats received no licensing income. Every seat shook when Odrin entered through the gold gate. He wore new blue armor and carried a barrier sword worth 200 gold. His father stood in the sponsor balcony with both hands on the rail. The crowd shouted Odran's name. When I entered through the wooden gate, half the arena held up pieces of chalk. The other half laughed. That was progress. A week earlier, everyone had laughed. "You have become popular?" Sayla said. She waited beside the preparation room in her black discipline coat. She held 2 paper cups. Steam rose from one of them. "Half of them came to watch me lose." "They still paid for seats." She gave me the cup. The broth smelled of beef, green onion, and pepper. 3 soft dumplings floated under the surface. I bit one open. Hot juice ran over my tongue, followed by garlic and rich meat. "How much?" I asked. 1 silver. "I will repay you after the final." "That assumes you win." "No, it assumes I dislike debt." Someone beside us emptied an entire jar of red pepper into her broth. She was a short girl with pale gray skin, small black horns, and yellow eyes. Her academy uniform had been altered to leave room for a thin tail. The memories in my head identified her as Wylin, the first demon exchange student in academy history. She tasted the broth and frowned. "Still weak," she said. "That jar could remove paint," Sela replied. "Human food is afraid of commitment." Eileen looked at me. Her eyes narrowed. "You are the one who heard scratching below the dormitory." "Sela told you?" "The crack told me. Demonic stone carries sound differently." She placed one finger on the wall. A faint red pulse moved under her nail. The scratch was a word in an old military code. It meant open. The dumpling stopped halfway to my mouth. "Who wrote it?" "Something with a claw longer than your arm." Sayela tapped her timing crystal. "We inspect the foundation after the tournament. Elvar needs the prize before sunset." Eileen looked at my 5 chalk pieces. "He needs better weapons." "They are not weapons," I said. "That is why they need improvement." She reached into her bag and took out a copper coin. One side had been heated red over a spirit lamp. She held it with iron tongs. "Show me what your line does to demonic heat." I drew a short mark across a stone bench. "Heat cannot cross." The system voice measured the line at half a meter and charged 10 units of mana. Eileen pushed the hot coin over it. The coin crossed. Its red color vanished at the exact center of the line. The metal rolled onto the other side cool enough for Sayela to catch with her bare hand. Behind the line, a flat wave of heat remained in the air. It shimmered for 2 seconds, then faded. All 3 of us stared at the coin. I had expected it to stop. Instead, the line had separated the object from a property it carried. The system voice spoke quietly. "Secondary principle confirmed. A permitted carrier may cross without a prohibited property. Cost depends on ownership, attachment, and conceptual distance." Eileen touched the cool coin. "Can you do that to poison and blood?" "Possibly." Sayela's expression sharpened. "Can you do it to mana in a person?" The roar from the arena grew louder as Odran demonstrated his sword. Blue light rose 20 meters above the seats. I looked through the preparation gate. "Possibly." The first tournament trial began before I could test it. Barrier students did not simply fight. Each competitor received a bronze bell and 2 stone pillars. The bell stood behind them. A contestant won by striking the enemy bell or forcing the enemy to surrender. The pillars created a narrow central lane 1 meter wide. It prevented students from running around every barrier and turning a magic duel into a long chase. For me, it created a perfect line. My first opponent fired 3 stone darts containing 40 units each. I drew a 1 meter mark between the pillars and named stone. The line cost 10 mana. All 3 darts stopped in the air and dropped together. 600 spectators gasped. I stepped over my own mark and rang his bell. My second opponent used a water whip. I named water. Her spell spread along the chalk and poured into the sand. 900 people stood to see it. She surrendered before I reached her bell. My third opponent tried wind. Wind turned out to be more difficult because the air itself had to cross. My command stopped the cutting force instead. The breeze passed and moved my hair. The invisible blade remained behind, buzzing like an angry insect. The crowd became silent enough for me to hear it fade. 3 matches cost 30 units of mana. The judges gave me 20 back through a recovery stone. My capacity remained 120. My current reserve was 100. Every victory happened before witnesses. Every recording crystal showed the same thing. My barrier did not crack, it did not struggle. Stronger attacks simply learned where they were not allowed to go. My academy position rose from 803 to 412, then to 206, then to 140. The rumor board changed my title from Chalk Rat to Cheap Wall. I considered that a financial compliment. Odrin reached the final by destroying every barrier in front of him. His sword released 600 units with each strike. One opponent left the arena with a broken arm, another surrendered after his barrier exploded close enough to burn his eyebrows. Odrin did not attack anyone after they surrendered. He was proud, but he was not stupid. His father needed him marketable. Before the final, Instructor Kelric entered the sand with 6 workers and ordered them to wash the arena. Buckets of water erased every chalk mark. The crowd murmured. "For safety," Kelric announced, "no contestant may prepare a spell before the signal." Sayla stood from the discipline table. That rule was not applied in the earlier matches. The earlier matches revealed a dangerous residue. Your workers found no residue. Kelric turned his back on her. He had not washed the arena for safety. He had washed it because Odrin's sword needed less than 1 second to cross the central lane. Drawing a solid line required 3. Kelric wanted the match decided before my chalk touched stone. The spectators understood too. Boos rolled down from the upper seats. Kelric's face stayed calm, but his neck turned red. Odrin waited at the gold gate. He did not look pleased. "I did not ask him to do that," he said when we met at the center. "Will you wait while I draw?" "No." "Then it does not matter who asked." His jaw tightened. "If I lose today, my father sends me to the northern fortress. He says war will remove my bad habits." That explained the pressure behind his smile. "Then win if you can," I said. "I will." Our bells rose from the sand. The 2 pillars lit. The central lane opened between us. The judge lifted one hand. I held a piece of chalk against my palm. "Begin." Odrin moved before the last sound faded. Blue armor covered his body. His sword gathered 600 units. He crossed half the lane in 1 step. I did not bend to draw. I threw the chalk beneath my boot and dragged my foot sideways. The white mark was rough. It was also complete. It stretched from one pillar to the other. Odrin raised his sword. I named what the line would forbid. "Odrin's mana cannot cross." The system voice struck through my head. Named attachment. Line length, 1 meter. Cost, 100 units. My reserve fell to 0. Odrin stepped over the line. His body crossed. His mana did not. 600 units of blue energy tore free from his skin in one perfect outline. For an instant, a shining copy of Odran stood behind the chalk while the real Odran continued forward. His barrier armor vanished. His sword became a heavy piece of metal. The blade pulled his empty arm down. Its point buried itself in the sand. Odrin tried to take another step, stumbled over the hilt, and landed on both knees in front of me. The glowing shape behind the line copied his pose and remained standing. 4,000 people forgot how to breathe. Across the city, 80,000 viewing crystals showed the first-place student kneeling before the last-place student without receiving a single attack. Odrin looked back at his own mana. "Give it back," he whispered. "The line lasts until it breaks." He reached toward the chalk. His arm crossed without trouble. The mana stretched toward him, reached the white mark, and flattened against it. The upper seats erupted. Students shouted my name. Others shouted white line. Pieces of chalk flew into the air like white rain. On the sponsor balcony, Odrin's father lowered himself into his chair as if the bones had left his legs. Kelric ran toward the judge. "Disqualify him. That is soul magic." Eileen jumped onto the discipline table. "It is not demonic magic," she called. "We would charge more." Even the judges laughed. Sayala raised the tournament rulebook. Elvar used one barrier line after the signal. He did not attack Audrin's body, mind, or core. The match is legal. "He removed my student's mana." "Temporarily," I said. "Break the line." The judge scuffed the chalk with one boot. Blue energy rushed across the sand and struck Odrin from behind. His hair stood straight up. His armor flashed on and off 3 times. Then the remaining power discharged through his sword and rang his own bronze bell. The clear note echoed around the arena. The rules declared that a contestant whose bell was struck had lost. Odrin had managed to defeat himself. The arena shook with laughter. The reaction escaped the stadium before Odrin reached the gate. Viewing crystals repeated the moment in market squares, guild halls, and factory dining rooms. Bakers stopped kneading dough to watch the blue shape remain behind the chalk. Carriage drivers leaned through tavern windows. Children drew lines across the road and ordered their friends' bad breath to stay on the other side. The city message board received 10,000 comments in less than a minute. Half called the spell impossible. The other half replied with copies of the official recording. One popular replay slowed the fall 3 times and added the words, "First place arrives without his power." Another froze on Kelric's face when Odrin rang his own bell. By the time the judge restored order, that image had become the most shared portrait in the capital district. Kelric could erase chalk from an arena. He could not erase 80,000 witnesses. He stared at the ringing bell, then at Kelric. His face moved through anger, horror, and finally understanding. Kelric's unfair help had placed the wet chalk under Odrin's own gate. Without the delay caused by the workers, I might never have noticed the narrow threshold. Odrin stood slowly. "You used his interference," he said. "I use what crosses my line." He looked toward his father. The man had already left the balcony. Odrin did not offer his hand, but he did bow once before walking out. The ranking crystal announced the result. My mana capacity rose from 120 to 180. My academy position rose from 140 to 97. My public combat grade rose from F rank to provisional C rank. The tournament office paid me 30 gold in a leather bag. I counted every coin before 4 officials and 2 recording crystals. Then I crossed the courtyard to the finance desk and paid 20 gold in full. The clerk removed the red scholarship warning from my name. Students filled the hall behind me. They watched the letters vanish. 7 days earlier, the same board had displayed me in last place. Now it showed a tournament crown beside my F-rank class. I spent 5 gold on 5 sticks of silver chalk. Each one held a line 10 times longer than common chalk and resisted water for 1 minute. I placed 4 gold and 18 silver in my room. I used the last gold to buy dinner for Sayala and Eileen at a street kitchen across from the academy. The cook served thick beef noodles in dark broth. Slices of roasted meat covered the bowl. Green onions floated beside soft eggs, and hot oil carried the smell of garlic through the small room. Eileen added enough pepper to make the cook step back. Sayala lifted a noodle with her chopsticks. "You repaid 1 silver with a full dinner." "I dislike interest." "I did not charge interest. That is why you received dessert." A small smile finally won its application. Outside, students were still buying chalk from every shop in the district. A merchant had painted white line across his window and tripled the price. My reputation was making everyone rich except me. I was calculating a licensing fee when the street went dark. A black carriage descended from the sky. 6 armored officials landed around it. Their cloaks carried the silver tower of the Imperial Barrier Office. The carriage door opened. A thin man stepped out wearing a white mask and a capital inspector's chain. I recognized him from academy portraits. Braven. He looked at the crowded restaurant, the students outside, and the recording crystals already turning toward him. "Elvar," he said, making sure every crystal heard. "You are under arrest for stealing a demonic boundary authority that belongs to the Empire." The ranking crystal in the academy tower flashed red. My new crown disappeared. The Empire gave me a breakfast and a chain. The chain joined my wrists. The breakfast was a warm honey bun filled with apple and cinnamon. I considered the bun more dangerous because Sayala had brought it through 6 armed guards without asking permission. "They are afraid of your chalk?" she said through the bars. I sat in a clean stone cell below the Academy Tribunal Hall. The Imperial Barrier Office had taken my coat, shoes, belt, and 5 silver chalk sticks. They had searched my hair twice. They had left me 1 wooden spoon. They should be afraid of the spoon, I said. It has no license. Sayla handed me a cup of hot milk. The apple filling burned my tongue, but butter melted through the soft bread and made the pain acceptable. Your hearing begins in 1 hour, she said. Braven has called it a security tribunal. 50 academies will receive the broadcast. That sounds expensive. He wants it public. If he labels your class demonic in front of enough witnesses, the Imperial Barrier Office can remove it from you under emergency law. Can a class be removed? Sayla's eyes went to the guards. The owner usually survives. That answer had too much space around one word. I finished the bun and counted the situation. My current mana capacity was 180. My money was 4 gold and 18 silver. My academy position was 97, but the ranking crystal had hidden it under a red seal. My best chalk was in an evidence box upstairs. The Empire had placed 1 wooden spoon within reach. I rubbed its edge against the stone bench. The soft wood left a pale mark. Sayla noticed. You said you needed chalk. I said I needed a completed line. Chalk is convenient. The system voice confirmed a secondary rule. Any visible, continuous mark could carry a boundary. Weak materials broke faster. Wood dust would last only a few seconds under pressure. I drew a line the width of my palm on the bench. Sound cannot cross. The command cost 20 units. I tapped the stone on one side. Sayla heard nothing on the other. The air still moved, but the sound ended at the pale mark. Words were sound. Meaning traveled with them. I erased the line with my sleeve. Tell me something false, I said. Your planning never worries me. Something easier to prove. She lifted the empty plate. You did not eat the bun. I carved a line around the rim of the wooden cup. The circle was only 10 centimeters long. I placed it between her and me. A deliberate lie cannot cross. Cold pressure struck behind my eyes. The system voice spoke. Abstract target, precise condition, cost 120 units, remaining mana 40. Sayla repeated her sentence. Her lips moved. No sound reached the cup. She said, You ate the bun. The words passed clearly. We looked at each other over the thin wooden circle. The line did not know truth. It judged whether the speaker believed the statement and intended to deceive. An honest mistake could cross. A planned lie could not. How long can you hold it? Sayla asked. Until the line breaks or my remaining mana reaches 0. 40 units? Enough for the truth if people answer quickly. She picked up the spoon. No, enough for a test. The tribunal has a speaking crystal with a silver ring. You need a line that will survive more than one answer. My silver chalk is upstairs, in an evidence box registered under my committee seal. Her small smile returned. Braven should read Academy procedure more carefully. 1 hour later, 6 guards led me into the Grand Tribunal Hall. Every seat was filled. Students stood along the walls and crowded the balconies. Teachers from 50 academies appeared inside tall viewing mirrors. The city message board had placed the hearing above weather warnings and food prices. More than 200,000 people were watching. Braven sat beneath the imperial crest. He had removed his white mask. His face was narrow and calm. A silver chain crossed his black uniform. Beside him sat Kelric, wearing all 6 gold barrier pins. Odrin occupied the first witness row. His father was not present. Elaine stood behind Sayla at the discipline table. Someone had searched her bag and confiscated 4 jars of pepper. She looked more offended by that than by my arrest. The chief judge struck a crystal rod against the floor. Bravian rose. The accused displayed authority over demonic mana 1 day after an unregistered demonic signal appeared below the academy. Such authority belongs to the Empire. Until its origin is established, Elvar's class must be extracted and examined. The viewing mirrors repeated his words. His voice was smooth and serious. He did not sound like a thief. Good thieves rarely did. He presented a black stone marked with a red claw. This seal was found in Elvar's room. The hall erupted. I had never seen the stone. Braven waited for the noise to grow. He wanted fear before evidence. Sayla raised one hand. The discipline record shows that Imperial officers searched the room without an Academy witness. The seal has no verified collection mark. Are you accusing Imperial officers of planting evidence? I am accusing them of ignoring the rules that prove they did not. Students in the upper gallery clapped. The judge ordered silence. Braven called Kelric. The instructor walked to the speaking crystal in the center of the hall. It was a clear sphere held by a silver ring. Every word spoken near it traveled to the mirrors and city crystals. Kelric placed one hand on the sphere. Elvar showed no meaningful barrier ability before the demonic signal, he said. His sudden power cannot be natural. Several teachers nodded. Braven looked at me. Do you deny your own instructor's testimony? I would like to test it, the audience murmured. With what? Braven asked. Sayela opened the evidence box beside her. She removed one stick of silver chalk and held it up for every recording crystal. This item was registered before the hearing, she said. The defense requests one line across the speaking crystal. Braven's eyes hardened. His magic is the subject of the hearing. Then demonstrating it seems useful. The chief judge considered the request. 200,000 viewers waited. Refusing would look like fear. One line? The judge said. The guards released one wrist. I walked to the speaking crystal. My mana had recovered to 180 during the hour. I drew a silver mark across the narrow base of the sphere. 10 centimeters. Smooth. Unbroken. A deliberate lie cannot cross. 120 units left me. The pressure returned behind my eyes, stronger than before. I kept my face still. The silver line turned pale blue. Braven laughed once. A childish trick. His words reached the hall. He believed them. I turned to Kelric. Did the examination sheet assign me 100 iron ants? No, Kelric said. His mouth moved. The speaking crystal produced nothing. The hall became silent. In 50 viewing mirrors, teachers leaned closer. I asked again, did you change my assigned target after I completed the test? No. Silence. A whisper moved through the student seats like wind through dry grass. Sayla lifted her timing crystal. It projected the examination recording above the hall. Kelric appeared in blue light, drawing the red change in front of 300 witnesses. The whisper became a roar. Kelric stepped away from the speaking crystal. 2 guards moved behind him. This proves nothing, he said without amplification. The boy controls the device. Then tell the truth, I replied. The line will pass it. His face lost color. I asked, did Audrin's father pay you to remove my scholarship? Kelric remained silent. The crowd shouted for an answer. Audrin stood in the witness row, his hands closed into fists. Braven ordered the judge to end the test. The chief judge looked at the viewing mirrors, the students, and the city count climbing above 230,000. The witness will answer. Kelric gripped the speaking crystal. No payment was made. Nothing crossed the line. The upper gallery stamped its feet. The rhythm filled the hall, even though Kelric's voice did not. Answer truthfully, the judge commanded. Kelric looked at Audrin. Audrin did not look away. His father paid me 6 gold, Kelric said. The confession rang from every mirror. The hall exploded. Students who had laughed at my F rank now shouted Kelric's name with the word thief after it. Teachers pulled the gold barrier pins from their robes in disgust. On the city message board, the official recording passed 100,000 copies before Kelric finished breathing. Audrin walked to the aisle. Did my father pay for my A rank too? He asked. Kelric said, you earned it. The crystal went silent. Audrin closed his eyes. His public humiliation had already happened in the arena. This one cut deeper because nobody laughed. 4,000 students had seen him lose his mana. 200,000 people now learned that his victories had been purchased before he entered the ring. He removed the tournament badge from his coat and placed it on the witness table. Ask the rest, he told me. I did. Did you erase reports about the boundary beneath the academy? Kelric tried to say no. Silence answered. How many? He swallowed. 12 reports. Who ordered it? Kelric looked toward the imperial crest. Braven stood. This hearing is suspended. The judge struck the floor, but the students drowned him out. Sayla ordered the guards to keep Kelric at the crystal. My remaining mana fell from 60 to 40. The line flickered. I had time for one answer. Who ordered it? I repeated. Kelric's shoulders dropped. Inspector Braven? His voice crossed. Every crystal carried the name. Braven did not shout. He did not threaten Kelric. He simply looked at him, and Kelric began shaking. The capital inspector walked to the center. A frightened man will say anything. The sentence crossed the line. Braven believed it. I asked, have you ever entered the sealed foundation below this academy? No? His lips formed the word. No sound emerged. For the first time, Braven's calm face broke. The entire hall saw it. 50 academies saw it. The city crystals froze the image before he could turn away. Someone in the upper gallery laughed, then another person joined. The sound spread until the Capitol Inspector stood beneath the imperial crest while 200,000 citizens laughed at his silence. He reached for the speaking crystal. My mana reached 0. The silver line cracked. Enough, Braven said, and his voice returned, but the timing did not save him. The recording had already become public. Sayela stepped into the center of the hall. Instructor Kelrick is under arrest for falsifying examinations, accepting payment, and destroying safety reports. She removed his 6 gold pins one by one. Each small click carried through the speaking crystal. When the last pin fell into the evidence tray, the students applauded. Kelrick had given me F rank before 300 witnesses. Sayela stripped his rank before more than 200,000. Braven invoked imperial immunity. The Academy guards could not arrest him without a capital order. He left through the main aisle while students held up white chalk on both sides. No one touched him. No one bowed either. At the door, he stopped beside me. "You think witnesses protect you?" he said quietly. "Crowds only make disasters larger." "That sounds like experience." His eyes moved to the floor as if checking for a line. Then he left. The tribunal cleared my class of demonic origin. The Academy audit restored my tournament crown and awarded 100 gold in compensation. My mana capacity rose from 180 to 260. My public combat grade rose to B rank. My Academy position rose from 97 to 8. The ranking crystal announced every number to a courtyard packed with students. When it reached my class, the old F rank still appeared beside Chalk Divider. Nobody laughed. The crowd lifted white chalk and shouted my name until the windows shook. I placed 80 gold in the Academy bank. I spent 10 on a case of silver chalk, 5 on 3 recovery potions, and 2 on a new coat. 3 gold bought access to the sealed foundation for Sayela, Island, and me. The remaining 4 gold and the 18 silver stayed in my pocket. Before we went below, Sayela led us to a bakery behind the tribunal hall. The owner refused payment after seeing the broadcast. He served round buns glazed with honey, filled with warm cream and covered with crushed nuts. We ate them with dark tea that smelled of orange peel. Eileen added pepper to hers. The baker sat down and asked her to leave. Sayela broke her bun in half and gave me the larger piece. "You spent all your mana on a line that could not defend you," she said. "It defended the truth." "Truth cannot drag you out of a cell." "You did that." She looked down at her tea. Her ears became slightly red. Eileen watched us, reached for the pepper jar, and decided not to comment. That was the kindest thing she had done all day. At sunset, we descended beneath the Academy. The sealed stairway continued farther than the tower was tall. Red light glowed between the stones. At the bottom, we found a circular chamber 12 meters wide. 11 white pillars stood around an empty socket. There should have been 12. The missing foundation stone was large enough to fill a carriage. Eileen knelt beside the socket. Black dust clung to her fingers. "It was removed from this side," she said. "Recently." Sayela found an imperial wax mark under the dust. Braven's personal seal. A weak voice came from the center of the chamber. "Too late." The floor opened like an eye. An old woman appeared inside the stone, transparent from the waist down. Silver chains crossed her arms and chest. Her face was thin, but her eyes were clear. "My name is Vessa," she said. "I guarded this boundary for 900 years. The inspector took its heart." The 11 pillars began to crack. "When will it fail?" I asked. Vessa looked up toward the Academy Festival banners hanging far above us. "Tomorrow at noon," she said. "One half of your school will remain in the human world, the other half will fall into the demon realm. Everyone standing between them will be divided with it." By sunrise, 30,000 festival visitors were walking toward an academy that had 11 hours left. Sayela ordered the gates closed. Braven ordered them opened. His command arrived on imperial paper before dawn. It declared Vessa an unverified spirit, the missing pillar a decorative monument, and the coming festival completely safe. Canceling the event without approval would cost the academy 5,000 gold and every senior teacher's license. The headmaster chose the licenses. Food carts, musicians, and 30,000 visitors filled the courtyards. A white festival road had been painted directly over the ancient boundary. I stood beside that road with 260 units of mana, 3 recovery potions, 9 sticks of silver chalk, and the strong wish to place the headmaster under a large net. "We cannot force 30,000 people through 3 gates, Sayela said, "not without causing a crush." She had spent the night moving students out of the East dormitories. The discipline committee had cleared 7 buildings before Braven's order removed its authority. How many remain near the boundary? I asked. 312 students, 84 visitors, 27 staff. They are running festival stalls and demonstrations. Move the children first. Do not say demon invasion. Tell them the fireworks route changed. Eileen carried a roll of old Foundation maps under one arm. Her tail moved sharply behind her. The demon side is moving too, she said. I felt marching through the lower stones. At least 10,000 signatures. Do they know the boundary will fail? Someone told them. We all looked toward the Imperial banner above the main gate. Braven arrived at mid-morning with 60 armored officers. The crowd applauded. The festival announcer introduced him as the man who had come to guarantee public safety. Braven stepped onto the central platform in a white ceremonial coat. His recovered calm was polished enough to reflect sunlight. Yesterday's hearing revealed errors by one instructor, he told the crowd. It did not reveal a threat to this academy. The Imperial Barrier Office has guarded the realm for 600 years. Enjoy your festival. People cheered because safety was easier to accept when it protected everyone's plans. Braven found me near the painted road. You should be grateful, he said. I could have closed this academy after your performance. You could close the gates now and let panic injure hundreds because a trapped ghost gave you a date. You removed the foundation stone. His expression did not move. Prove it. 4 recording crystals turned toward us. Braven noticed them and smiled. Yesterday you used a trick to damage public trust, he continued. Do not confuse applause with authority. Barriers must belong to institutions, not frightened children with chalk. One uncontrolled gift can begin a war. There was his real belief. The Empire should own every gate, seal, and person capable of changing them. A small crisis would prove the Academy incompetent. Braven would save the world from freedom and send it an invoice. What did you expect to happen today? I asked. Nothing you can prove. He walked away. I drew a silver line across the entrance to the festival's central platform. It was only half a meter long. The person transporting the stolen boundary heart cannot cross. The system voice charged 100 units. The silver chalk sank into the stone and became nearly invisible. Sayla watched from beside a food stall. That leaves you 160, she said. It leaves us proof. If he crosses here, he likes platforms and witnesses. At 11, the first crack crossed the festival road. It was thin enough for people to mistake it for damaged paint. Vessa's voice reached me through the ground. 1 hour? Sayla rang the discipline alarm without permission. Students began guiding visitors toward the western lawns. Imperial officers blocked them. Braven announced that the alarm was part of a student performance. Several families laughed and returned to the stalls. At 11:30, the sky above the eastern tower turned red for 1 second. Everyone saw that. The musicians stopped. Merchants lowered their ladles. 30,000 faces turned upward. Braven climbed the central platform. He stepped over my silver line without trouble. The crowd relaxed when nothing happened. Sayla looked at me. He is not transporting the heart, I said. Braven raised both hands. A harmless light effect has escaped from the illusion department. There is no danger. At 11:59, every shadow in the academy pointed east. There was no sun in that direction. Vessa screamed beneath the ground. The painted festival road split open. One half of the academy remained under a blue human sky. The other half fell beneath a red sky filled with 3 black moons. The change made no sound at first. Buildings simply existed in 2 worlds. The west half of the library stood in sunlight. The east half hung over a black valley. Human birds flew around one tower. Winged red creatures circled the next. Then the sound arrived. Stone tore. Glass burst. 30,000 people screamed together. The ancient boundary ran through 5 courtyards, 3 halls, the library, and the central festival platform. Anyone standing across it froze between realities. A boy reached for his mother with one arm under the blue sky and one under the red. 2 students hung above the road, their bodies stretched into thin bands of light. A teacher stood inside a classroom that had become half stone wall and half open demon air. The count from Sayla's timing crystal climbed. 100, 200, 312 students, 84 visitors, 27 staff. All of them remained alive. All of them were beginning to separate. Braven's 60 officers raised standard barriers. The human side pushed against the demon side with raw mana. Their walls cracked in 3 seconds. Power could not repair a definition. I ran toward the opening. The space above the festival road twisted like hot glass. My left hand appeared under the blue sky. My right hand appeared beneath 3 moons. Pain moved through my shoulders. "Do not cross," Island shouted. "The worlds are choosing where every piece belongs. Then I will give them a rule." I reached the missing section of the foundation line. It stretched 12 meters from one broken stone to the next. Silver chalk could survive the energy, but 12 meters of an abstract prohibition would cost more than I had ever held. Vesa appeared inside the cracked road. Her transparent body flickered. "The old boundary is still a line," she said. "Complete the missing part, and your command can use all 12,000 meters. You pay only for the break." There was the next principle. I did not need to redraw a world. I needed to finish its sentence. How much mana remains in the pillars? 740? I had 160. My 3 recovery potions held 100 each. The total was 1,200. The cost of a precise abstract rule was 100 units per meter. For once, the numbers were polite. "Open the pillars," I said. Vesa pulled against the silver chains around her. 11 white columns rose through the festival road. Cracks covered them, but blue light still moved inside. Sayela cleared people from the missing section. Eileen stood on the demon side and shouted directions in both languages. Imperial officers tried to order her back. She showed them her teeth, and they discovered a sudden respect for cultural exchange. I drank the first recovery potion. It tasted like cold metal and spoiled mint. 100 units entered my core hard enough to bend my knees. I used the first stick of silver chalk. The mark crossed 1 meter before the tip melted. The trapped students began to scream. Their bodies stretched farther. The boy reaching for his mother lost the color in his fingers. In the library, shelves split and spilled books into 2 skies. I drank the second potion and drew 3 more meters. The demon valley rose closer. Thousands of armored shapes stood below it. Red banners moved between them. I drank the third potion. My stomach tried to return all 3. I kept them down and drew. 5 meters. 6. 7. The crowd had stopped running. People stood on both sides of the road and watched. Recording crystals hovered above the split. The city network carried the image to more than 500,000 viewers. At 8 meters, my own mana reached 0. Vesa released the first pillar. Ancient power entered the chalk. It felt dry, vast, and tired. I pulled it through my arm, 100 units at a time. 9 meters. 10. The first silver stick broke. I used another. 11 meters. A crack raced ahead of my hand. The worlds pulled harder. One of the frozen students became transparent. Sayela dropped beside me. She could not draw the rule, but she pressed both hands over the stone and kept the broken edges level. 1 meter, she said. Blood ran from her palm where the stone cut it. Eileen planted her feet on the demon side and pushed the other edge toward us. "Human roads are badly made," she shouted. "Complain after lunch," I replied. "We already had lunch." "Then complain tomorrow." I finished the line. All 1,200 units gathered inside the silver mark. I named the rule carefully. The severing of worlds cannot cross into a living body. The white line flashed across the entire academy. For one breath, 12,000 meters of ancient boundary became visible under the buildings, roads, and gardens. It looked like a ring of moonlight beneath our feet. The frozen people fell free. Those whose hearts had been on the human side dropped beneath the blue sky. Those whose hearts had been on the demon side landed under the red. The boy and his mother fell together. The stretched bands of light became arms, legs, faces, and clothing again. Sayela's crystal counted them. 312 students alive, 84 visitors alive, 27 staff alive. Not one body remained between worlds. The human courtyard erupted. Parents grabbed children, students lifted rescued friends, teachers cried into each other's robes. On the demon side, Eileen helped a group stand while red-winged creatures watched from the roofs. The city network repeated the 3 numbers. 500,000 viewers heard every one. The same people who had watched Bravin promise safety now watched an F-rank chalk line save 423 lives. The system voice spoke through the noise. World boundary contact survived. Mana capacity increased from 260 to 360. Public combat grade eligible for provisional S rank. I could not stand. Sayela put one arm around me. Her injured hand left blood on my new coat. "I paid 2 gold for this," I said. "File a complaint." The old boundary remained unstable. The missing heart still mattered. Without it, the two halves of the academy would stay in different worlds, and the crack would open again. That was when Bravin returned. His black carriage rose from the demon side of the valley. He had crossed through a hidden imperial gate before the failure. A white metal case floated behind him. 60 officers formed a wall around the central platform. The Imperial Barrier Office now assumes emergency control, he announced. All students will surrender boundary artifacts. Elvar will release his authority. He had expected panic to make people obedient. Instead, everyone had seen who saved them. Sayla stood in front of me. You have no authority inside an academy under active discipline rescue. Move! No. Braven looked at the recording crystals. 500,000 viewers waited. He could not order his officers to cut down the girl who had just held the road together. He chose the platform. I will address the public directly. Braven walked toward the steps and crossed the silver line I had drawn that morning. This time, the boundary activated. His face stopped in the air. His legs continued for half a step. His ceremonial hat flew off and landed on the platform without him. The white metal case behind him opened. The missing boundary heart rolled out. It struck the stone with a sound like a temple bell. Every recording crystal turned toward it. Braven pressed both hands against empty air. The line did not allow the carrier to cross. His cheeks flattened as if he were leaning against clear glass. Behind him, his own officers stared at the imperial seal carved into the stolen pillar. The crowd laughed in both worlds. Braven tried to step back. His long coat had crossed before the rule fully recognized him. The cloth remained on the platform while he moved away. Buttons flew. The Capitol Inspector emerged wearing his formal shirt and one sleeve of his coat. 500,000 viewers watched him lose an argument with half a meter of chalk. This was a controlled test, Braven shouted. Sayela's recording crystal replayed his words from the previous day. Have you ever entered the sealed foundation below this academy? No. The old silence followed. The laughter became thunder. Braven's calm finally broke. The office needed control of the gate, he snapped. This academy ignored 12 damage reports. A short breach would prove the need for Imperial protection. It should have lasted 3 seconds. Vesa rose from the open road. You read the restoration rune backward, she said. Even Aline laughed at that. Sayela crossed the platform and closed an academy restraint around Braven's wrists. Imperial immunity does not cover theft during an active rescue, she said. Inspector Braven, you are under arrest. The same crowd that had applauded his arrival watched him leave without a coat. We returned the heart to the empty socket. The 11 pillars drew together. Vesa's chains fell away. Blue and red light moved across the academy, joining broken walls and stabilizing the two skies. The buildings did not return to one world. The breach had gone too far, but the halves stopped pulling apart. The Academy Council awarded me 300 gold for the rescue and a permanent S-rank license. My name moved from 8th place to 1st on the Academy board. The emergency office delivered 50 sticks of star chalk, each able to hold a line for 10 minutes under direct magic. At sunset, we rested in the cafeteria where the human and demon halves met. The cooks used what had survived. They roasted strips of beef over blue demon flame, served them on buttered rice, and added sweet carrots, crisp onions, and black pepper. Eileen contributed red peppers from a demon garden. One bite made my eyes water and returned feeling to my feet. Sayla's hand was wrapped in clean cloth. She sat close enough for our shoulders to touch. You saved 423 people, she said. You held the road. I held a stone. It was an important stone. She leaned her head against my shoulder for one quiet breath. Then horns sounded under the red sky. 10,000 demon soldiers filled the valley below the academy. Their armor looked like dark bone. Red banners rose between ranks of spears. At their center stood a tall man on a 6-legged black beast. Eileen put down her bowl. That is Tharos, she said. He commands the western demon armies. Tharos lifted one spear. His voice crossed the valley and shook both halves of the school. Humans stole the heart of the boundary. At dawn, we will cross and take the human half as payment. Behind his army, something larger than the valley opened one pale eye in the darkness between the 3 moons. At dawn, 10,000 demons prepared to invade the human world, while 8,000 Imperial soldiers arrived to invade them first. The human army came through blue gates on the western lawn. Their shields carried the silver tower of the Imperial Barrier Office. Braven had been arrested, but his institution had not learned anything. An acting director sent a written command ordering Eileen and every demon visitor confined. The same command required me to seal the red half of the academy, even if students remained inside it. There were 146 human students on the demon side. Theros called them hostages. Both armies pointed weapons across the broken school and described themselves as protection. I stood on the cafeteria roof and counted. My mana capacity was 360. My bank held 80 gold. The rescue reward added 300 more. I carried 50 sticks of star chalk and no spell that could defeat 18,000 soldiers. Sayela climbed onto the roof beside me. Her right hand was still bandaged. "The human commander demands your answer in 1 hour," she said. Theros waits until dawn. It is dawn. Then everyone has become impatient at the same time. Below us, Odrin organized 200 barrier students. He wore a plain coat and had refused to restore his old rank until he earned it honestly. His first ordinary chalk line had failed to stop his father's carriage, but the symbolic effort was strong. We returned to the cafeteria for breakfast. The cooks served dark bread toasted in butter, soft eggs with crisp edges, and beef stew with beans, tomatoes, and demon peppers. Warm yolk soaked into the bread. The stew filled my chest with heat. Eileen ate 2 bowls without drinking water. Vesa sat in a small body made from boundary clay. After 900 years inside stone, she tasted a tomato slowly and smiled. Sayela took my chalk hand. "I believed you at the dormitory fire," she said. 47 people had laughed at you. You still spent your last mana to protect them. Do not become a permanent boundary today. Vesa explained that the first keeper had given his body to hold the original rule. The restored network now contained 999,640 units. My core held 360. Together, they made exactly 1 million. The old keeper expected his successor to die, Vesa said. I finished the bread. Then his plan needs revision. We went outside to negotiate. Theros rode up the valley on a 6-legged beast. 10,000 soldiers lowered their weapons behind him. On the human lawn, the acting director remained safely behind 8,000 shields. More than 2 million humans watched through crystals, while 800,000 demons watched through black pools. Your empire removed the seal, Theros said. Our western lands have lost rain, crops, and magic for 3 years. We will take the human half before our realm dies. He had cities to protect, but he had chosen conquest before asking for bread. Braven stole the heart and we arrested him, I said. One hand stole it, another brings an army. Which hand should I trust? The acting director ordered me to create a species seal. When I reminded him that 146 human students remained on the demon side, he called them an acceptable loss. Their families heard him. Parents turned on the Imperial soldiers. Odrin led 200 students away from the office formation and stood behind me. That is treason, the acting director shouted. Odrin raised ordinary chalk. Put it on my new record. The city message board repeated his answer. For the first time, his rank rose because people respected him instead of his father. Eileen addressed the demon army through every black pool. I crossed as a student. Humans did not cage or eat me. There are guilty humans here, and there are children. If you cross with weapons, you become what you claim to fear. Move aside, Theros ordered. My common sense outranks you. Distant demon cities laughed. Theros raised his spear. The first 1,000 soldiers charged. I had prepared 1 star chalk line across the bridge between the 2 halves of the academy. It measured 2 meters. The command had cost 200 units before breakfast. Weapons cannot cross. The demons crossed. Their weapons did not. 1,000 spears, swords, axes, and bows stopped above the white mark. Straps snapped, soldiers spun backward, and 2 captains ran out of boots containing hidden blades. The bridge became a pile of equipment and confused invaders. Theros roared and drove his beast forward. The beast crossed. His spear did not. Theros stretched between the reins and the trapped weapon, lost his grip, and landed on the equipment pile. 1 black boot remained visible between 2 shields. Humans laughed first. Then 10,000 demon soldiers and 800,000 viewers joined them. Theros emerged without his spear and stared at the chalk. You humiliated my army, he said. I removed the dangerous part. The acting director chose that moment to attack. Imperial mages fired blue control chains at the boundary heart. Odran and 200 students raised barriers, but the first attack shattered 30 walls. My weapon line did nothing because the chains were spells. I had 160 mana. Sayela drew a new star chalk mark while I gave it meaning. Imperial control magic cannot cross. The 1 meter line cost 120 units. 20,000 units of control magic reached it and stopped. At 40 seconds, the Imperial engine cracked. Energy ran backward. 8,000 soldiers dropped their shields, and the acting director's crystal covered him in silver dust. 2 million human viewers watched the Imperial Barrier Office lose to chalk for the second day in a row. My remaining mana was 40. The pale eye behind the 3 moons opened fully. Darkness poured out of it without crossing space. The valley lost its color. Red banners turned gray. The demon soldiers nearest the back looked at their own hands as if they did not know what hands were. Vesa screamed one word, "Empty!" The old guardian ran to the boundary heart. White lines rose around her. "The empty king does not destroy worlds," she said. "It removes the difference between them. When nothing has a border, nothing has a name, shape, or life. The first boundary kept it in the space between." Theros looked behind his army. The darkness had already swallowed the last 100 ranks. Those soldiers did not fall. They became pale outlines with no faces. Their armor flowed into their bodies. Their bodies flowed into the road. The general's anger disappeared. "How long?" he asked. "Minutes," Vesa replied. The acting director ordered his army to retreat through the blue gates. The gates had lost their shape. One became a flat lake. Another opened inside a tree. Imperial soldiers ran in every direction. The demon army surged toward the academy without formation. They were no longer invading. They were fleeing. The weapon line let their bodies cross and held their steel behind. Thousands reached the human lawn unarmed. Parents pulled demon children away from the darkness. Human students carried wounded soldiers. The difference between enemy and refugee changed in one breath. The empty king reached the red half of the library. Books lost their letters. Stone lost its edges. A tower leaned, forgot that it was solid, and spread across the sky like gray smoke. The ancient boundary began to vanish. I had 40 units of mana. The world-scale command required 1 million. Vesa looked at me. "If you become the keeper, the network will use your mind until the line breaks." How long did the first keeper last? 900 years. That is too long for a job without weekends. Sayla seized my coat. "Find another condition." The armies, students, families, and viewers waited while gray emptiness ate the valley. Every barrier expert in both worlds knew only 2 choices: seal demons out or seal humans out. Choose a side, build a wall, feed one world to save the other. That was the rule their magic had obeyed for centuries. My class did not build walls. It named what could not cross. I looked at Elaine. She had crossed into the human world without harming it. Human students had crossed onto demon stone and remained human. The danger was not a body, blood, horns, or skin. The danger was the purpose carried across the border. The hot coin had crossed my line while its heat stayed behind. Udrun had crossed while his mana remained. Armies could cross while conquest did not. "Vesa," I said, "the network does not need my mind forever. It needs a definition both worlds can remember." "Who will make them remember?" I pointed at the viewing mirrors and black pools. "Everyone!" Nearly 3 million witnesses were already watching. Sayla understood first. She climbed onto the platform and turned every academy crystal toward the boundary heart. Eileen ordered the demon pools linked to them. Odran and the students carried mirrors to the bridge. Theros commanded his remaining signal mages to open every military channel. The line would be public in both worlds, not because applause powered it. Witnesses did not give me mana. They gave the rule a place in memory after I released it. Vesa opened the ancient network. 999,640 units rose through the restored heart. My capacity had increased during the 2 public defenses. The system voice measured it at 500. My remaining reserve was 40, but Sayla pushed a recovery crystal from the Academy treasury into my hand. It held 320 units. Exactly 1 million entered the line. The energy did not fit inside me. It burned through my arms, spine, teeth, and eyes. White cracks appeared over my skin. I could no longer feel the stone under my feet. Sayla wrapped both arms around my waist and held me upright. "You promised to revise the plan," she said. "I am revising it now." I placed 1 stick of star chalk against the boundary heart. The chalk moved 1 meter around the central socket. That small circle connected to every ancient mark under the Academy, through the Demon Valley and across the human continent. I drew 1 line between the human world and the demon world. Theros waited on one side. The acting director waited on the other. Eileen stood with 1 foot in each. I named the only thing that neither world could safely carry across: Conquest cannot cross this boundary. 1,000,000 units ignited. White light circled both skies. The empty king struck first. Its darkness reached the line and stopped. The pale eye widened. Gray emptiness spread sideways, searching for an end. There was none. The ancient boundary formed a closed seam around both worlds. The empty king pushed with enough force to shake mountains. The chalk circle did not resist. It remained thin, white, and complete. The thing between worlds sought to enter, erase, and possess everything. Its purpose was conquest. It could not cross. The gray tide folded backward. Faces returned to demon soldiers. Letters returned to books. The tower gathered from smoke and became stone again. The pale eye closed one slow degree at a time, while 3,000,000 witnesses shouted across two worlds. Theros tested the line. He stepped toward the human lawn with the intention of claiming it. The boundary stopped him. His six-legged beast walked through without trouble and left him holding the reins again. This time, Theros released them before he became horizontal. Both armies laughed. He removed his armor, dropped his command seal, and looked at the line. "I wish to cross as an envoy," he said. The boundary let him pass. The demon viewing pools erupted. Soldiers struck spear shafts against the ground. Theros turned to his army and bowed his head before all of them. "The invasion is over," he said. "We will ask for trade instead." The acting director tried next. He declared that the human side belonged to the Empire and ordered the boundary heart surrendered. He walked directly into the line, his face flattened against empty air in the same way Braven's had. 2,000,000 human viewers laughed before he finished falling backward. The Imperial Barrier Office withdrew its soldiers. Line crossed in both directions 3 times. Horn's Tail, Demonic Mana, and Pepperjar all passed freely. "The line is not against demons," she told the mirrors. "It is against idiots with flags." That became the most repeated sentence in both realms by sunset. The empty king was forced back into the space between worlds. The ancient network sealed around it. I released the command and waited to become part of the stone. Nothing happened. The rule remained. Millions of people had heard it. Human and demon officials repeated it in the first border treaty. The network no longer depended on one trapped mind. It depended on a definition both sides had accepted in public. Vessa's clay body became solid. For the first time in 900 years, she stepped over the old boundary without chains. The system voice gave its final report. Divider of concepts recognized as Keeper of Two Worlds. Personal mana capacity, 500. World-scale authority requires the ancient network and mutual recognition. Independent world-scale use remains impossible. That last restriction was comforting. I had no desire to redraw continents before breakfast. The Human Council and Demon Court awarded me an annual salary of 3,000 gold. My bank balance rose to 384 gold and 18 silver before the first payment even arrived. I received 2 permanent cases of Star Chalk, a house beside the restored academy, and the first neutral border license in either world. Odrin regained an honest A rank after leading the student defense. Eileen became the first official exchange envoy. Vessa took a room above the cafeteria because it was closest to the tomatoes. Saela became the youngest chief of academy security. The ranking crystal removed the F beside my class. Students protested. They said the F had become famous. The academy put it back. That evening, long tables filled the rebuilt western courtyard. Human cooks served beef noodles, glazed chicken, soft eggs, and bread covered in melted cheese. Demon cooks added roasted red fruit, black rice, and peppers strong enough to clean metal. Music from both worlds played badly together and became better after midnight. I sat beneath the festival ribbons with Sayla. She placed one bowl of onion soup between us, the same simple soup we had eaten after the dormitory fire. "You are still wearing the coat I ruined," she said. "It cost 2 gold. You now earn 3,000 a year." "That does not change the coat's value." She leaned closer. "Will you draw a line if I do this?" She kissed me. It was brief, warm, and witnessed by enough cheering students to become public record before I opened my eyes. "No," I said. "Some things should cross." The courtyard roared. Odrin complained that public romance should reduce my rank. Eileen poured pepper into his drink. Vessa ate a tomato and pretended not to watch. For the first time since a refrigerator sent me into this world, I had money, a home, people beside me, and a class nobody called useless. Then every white line in the courtyard turned black. The music stopped. I looked up. A thin, dark circle had appeared around the largest moon. It had not come from the human world, the demon world, or the space between them. The system voice spoke one last time. External boundary detected. Target includes both worlds. Distance unknown. Something outside our sky had drawn a line around us.